obviously you saw us last week in a different location, different shirts. I actually, one of those rocks in the background, Chris and I were jumping on, and I bruised the entire downside of my leg. So sadly, me in my 40s is not like Indiana Jones in his 40s, unfortunately. So, but yeah, we're super excited to be here. I believe the order we're going in is Matt first, obviously from the Star Wars The Black Series Instagram, then James from Jedi News, then Jordan from Cinelux, and then Cool Toy Review, obviously, if he hops back on. So yeah, we will cycle through. I think we've got, I think we had to lose at least one person, if not two, so we might go a little shorter than the 50 minutes, but we will make sure we get through all of your questions. So I think unless Whitney or Lawrence or Alyssa or Jenna or Aaron, we've got a lot of spectators, unless they want to jump in with anything.
No, I think we are ready to get started.
All right, sounds good. So we can kick it off with Matt.
Thanks, guys, again for doing this. Quick question, I guess, to start off, and this is coming from the Indiana Jones collecting community now. Are there plans for vehicles and or horses, sets or dios for the 6-inch adventure series? Tanks, bikes, big rolling stones?
There are plans presently, and certainly nothing we can talk about that we haven't announced, obviously. But
yeah,
and the line has been doing great, so you don't know what the future is going to hold.
Great. So that
it's not off the table, is
good.
What I'll say.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
And we did reveal that boulder in Worlds of Adventure, so that would make kind of a small stone in Adventure Series scale. So
cool.
Not quite the one from Raiders, but a smaller, a little more pesky one.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. James.
Thank you very much, guys, for doing this. Really appreciated. First up, some of our readers want to know, why was the decision taken not to produce any 3 3/4-inch figures, aka the vintage collection, for the Indiana Jones line?
Absolutely, yeah. And of course, we do have the retro line now. I know that that's the same scale and very different styling, very different audiences. And I have a little visitor. Sorry. Can you hold on 1 second, honey? Do you want to come say hi?
Indy Jr.
Yeah, here we go. All right, just to keep her occupied. Yep. And then next question we'll let Chris answer. So this was not planned for answering a difficult question, I promise. But no, so obviously, you guys know the history. We had done a 3 3/4-inch line back in 2008, where we produced many of those figures. Obviously, figures have come a long way since then, so I'm not saying that those figures are up to modern standards, but we had kind of already tread that ground. So, certainly this is the first new Indy movie in 15 years. We wanted to celebrate Indy in some toy forms that he and the brand have never been in before. So that's why we are excited to explore Adventure Series on retro. So that's kind of a quick answer to that. All right. Sorry. I think, let's see, Jordan, you're up next. I'm sorry, yep, we don't have Jordan. So let's go on to Nick.
All right, Patrick and Chris, you guys have worked on the Star Wars Black Series line for a while. How has the Star Wars Black Series line influenced the Indiana Jones Adventure Series? What lessons learned have you taken from choosing characters to produce in the Star Wars line and the engineering of those figures that are shaping the direction of the Adventure Series?
Well, it's largely the same team working on both. We had extra help for Indy, but still some great learnings from all the history we have in the 6-inch Star Wars stuff. Sculpting team, same sculpting team, designers, all that. So there's a lot of overlap, and naturally all those learnings just translate so perfectly well over to Indy as well.
Okay.
Awesome. Cool. All righty. And I'll apologize. We have a childcare situation. So my daughter usually she's got an iPad. She never gets one. So usually she's glued. My wife and I put it at like a 1% chance that she'd come in. And of course, she does. She's clearly a huge Indy fan. So she heard us talking and wanted to join, but hopefully not again. So Matt, back to you.
Just a question, how deep can this line go? can we expect characters from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Young Indy TV series, or are we kind of focusing on Raiders, Temple, Last Crusade, and Dial of Destiny?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, obviously, there's our personal opinions, then there's what we do professionally, right? So I think I'm on the record as being a huge fan of the Young Indy TV series. I forget exactly what I said in PulseCon, but I credit that show with me becoming a history major in college. All of my research papers were on Pancho Villa and Charles de Gaulle and Albert Schweitzer and all of the figures that he meets. So I keep trying to, sprinkle in things. We'll see if any of them come to fruition. But certainly we think there's the potential for it to be deep. And, we've already, shown some characters that, are not necessarily the main, top 2 or 3 characters in each movie. So there's certainly some opportunity for depth there. In terms of the Young Indiana TV show, that might go the way of my passion for Joruus C'baoth in Star Wars. Might not happen. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, we'll see. It's not currently in our plans. We just think that there's a lot of rich ground with Raiders on Temple, Last Crusade, and then certainly Dial of Destiny. And I think we've either shown product or pipeline for characters from all of those properties. So those are the primary areas we're going to hunt. But again, as Chris said, we will see what the future holds.
Thanks.
Absolutely. All right, James, back to you.
So the first wave of Adventure Series figures included a buildable Ark of the Covenant with a part with each figure. Will every subsequent non-exclusive wave feature a buildable relic?
Well, I think that's probably something we haven't announced yet, but I think you can infer from the first wave what you can infer.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I think, certainly the identity of those build a pattern to continue with all of our future waves.
If it works well, then maybe try in Star Wars. Just an idea.
There we go. Are there artifacts? Are there relics? I don't know. Yeah, maybe. All right. So moving on back to Nick.
So building off of James's question, this is the first time we've seen a Lucasfilm license incorporate a buildable element into the 6-inch scale. And just the Ark of the Covenant's a fun choice, but just curious what the design process is when you take an item like that and separate it out into pieces, and how do you ensure it's an enjoyable collecting and building experience for collectors?
Well, I think an important part of it is making sure that it does divide up well, and that each figure in the wave gets an important or meaningful addition to that figure. So even if you don't want to buy all the figures, which I'm not encouraging, I hope everybody does buy all the figures because the Ark is amazing. But even so, each figure ends up with something fun. So, whether that's the top of the Ark where you get the cherubs to, all the, even the sticks, like the ornate work on the handles of the sticks, the carrying handles, there's a lot of really cool stuff in there. So splitting it up that way. But you have to split it up in a way that still makes it a functional thing that's easy enough to put back together. And the team's just really good at kind of solving those sort of puzzles. So it's all that sort of stuff that goes into it. But ultimately, it comes down to making that cool thing at the right size that's easy enough for fans to put together.
Cool. Awesome. All right. It's funny, with only 3 groups, we're to the top of our 3rd round here. So Matt, lead us off for the 3rd round.
I'm just hoping you guys can explain the reasoning behind only having 2 figures from the first wave up for pre-order when all 5 were revealed as a wave. And I guess when we can expect the remaining 3 to be available for pre-order.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's interesting. I've been with Hasbro. I've been with Star Wars since 2015 now. And so pre-orders, right? Didn't exist at all. Then kind of came on a little bit. Then we went to kind of pre-ordering everything and kind of, the pendulum swings, right? So, certainly we're always trying to get feedback. The whole point of pre-orders is to kind of make life easier for the community. So, that's why we started them in the first place. That's why we increased them. That's why we throttled them back a little bit. We're always thinking critically about pre-orders to ensure that that's a positive experience and that it adds to the experience and doesn't detract. We're aware it's 2023 now. In the last 3 years, there's been an increasing number of pre-orders. Again, we moved to pre-ordering everything around 2019, 2020, and then COVID hit, the global supply chain crisis, et cetera. And so kind of that combination of things led to that backlog. And I've read the articles of telling how many pre-orders are kind of out. And so we're certainly aware that that's creating from some frustration. So obviously at PulseCon, we launched Indy, new brand, doesn't kind of have any of that backlog, and we wanted to do it the most positive way possible. So we didn't want to just right away default to pre-ordering everything because we didn't want to create that backlog right from the start for Indy. So we limited it to just those 2 figures for Adventure Series. We didn't want people to get stressed out getting the full wave. And then obviously, I think everything else we revealed at PulseCon we did pre-order. So obviously in our last live stream, all of the Adventure Series items will be pre-ordered. The Target one went on pre-order, the Walmart ones, and I'm aware in Australia, some different retailers, but in the US, the Walmart ones will be available for pre-order. We will announce when that is coming. I know from the past that there's frustration when items just magically go up on pre-order, the community doesn't know that they're coming, and then they're sold out before some people even know. So we'll announce when they're going on pre-orders. Retro, we might be moving away from pre-orders, just given, it is a more casual target for those. And so pre-order, honestly, just, the data is pre-orders used less. So in terms of when those items from PulseCon will go on pre-order, they actually won't go on pre-order. They'll just be up for sale like normal, like it was 2015. And again, we're trying out something new, hoping to increase and improve the experience. So let us know how it goes and let us know if you'd like us to change in the future.
So would that mean that with Indy and Toth being for pre-order, I think May, June, whatever it is, the other 3 figures will not go up for pre-order, but release at that same time?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Cool. That was a long answer, but obviously a complicated and sensitive topic. So, all right, James, what do you got for us?
The retro figures revealed as part of the fan stream include some great fabric costumes. What's the process in matching those to the costume and then scaling them appropriately for each figure?
Well, that, again, it comes down to the team we have on this and the resources we have. So we actually had original pieces to reference. So that was perfect. And then working with our soft goods teams to make sure we really nailed the right fabric. And Marion, especially with that lace skirt that she has on the dress, that was a tough one trying to find, because it's vintage lace, and trying to find a lace that really matched well to that was probably the biggest challenge. And Belloc's ceremonial robe, that's a pattern, and just trying to replicate that's easy enough. But trying to match that lace and find a source for that was challenging. But I think we got something really, really close. So, but it's a lot of having really great resources and really great people on the team looking for that and trying to nail those details.
Thank you.
Chris is super passionate about the retro line, and I think does a great job, but I'm sure I'm biased. All right, back to Nick.
All right, this is a 2-parter. We've seen Star Wars directors George Lucas, Dave Filoni, and Jon Favreau produced in action figure form. Could there be a possibility of Steven Spielberg getting the same treatment in the Indy line? And the second part is, and can we expect a Selfie Series Indy body?
Two good questions. So obviously, as always, can't speak to anything that's not revealed yet. Although we have talked about maybe in the future, like planning a reveal for these fan site interviews so that we can say, oh, actually, but not today. So obviously a Steven Spielberg figure would be amazing. That would be very cool. Can't speak to whether that's coming or not, but obviously that would be super cool. In terms of Selfie, I would love to see myself as an Indy figure. Again, I love Star Wars. I love Indy even more, very transformative in my life. I can definitely see myself in that fedora with the whip, with the leather jacket. I may have mentioned my son actually went as Indy last year, so I don't think I can fit into his outfit. But Selfie's a new launch. Obviously, I think just launched a couple of months ago. And so obviously, here to start, we're focused on some of our larger brands. That's where we've limited the launch. As always, it's kind of what the community wants to see. We're excited to evolve the platform based on fan feedback. So, again, I would just encourage you guys, if that's something you think is a priority, let us know just quickly your opinion here, and then definitely have people let us know at conventions, online, et cetera, because we read those online articles. We talk to folks at conventions. So as an indie selfie, something you guys would like to see?
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
Okay.
Do you know,
Like to
just
see it in
because
the UK, please. Sorry.
Yeah.
because of the design limitations, do you think we could get the hat on with the face mold?
That's an excellent question. I don't know if Chris can speak to that. I know I can't, but it's a good question. And so that might be something limiting it. And again, we'll just have to see what the future holds. Cool. All righty. Back to the top with Matt.
This is a bit of a long one, maybe, I don't know. But with the fan stream, it was really great to see how much detail was given in the international details of who would and not who wouldn't, but who would be getting the exclusives and where they're likely to be landing. It was really great for America and Europe, and I just wanted to put the hand up for Australia and the Pacific Asian region and just say, is there any info we can get, or from Hasbro Australia or something, to just get that information? I just think what's happening is a lot of collectors are from Australia, for example, are buying overseas, incurring the shipping costs and exchange rates, and then finding out 3 weeks later that actually Big W will have it. And it's just at these times with the, I guess, pressures of cost of living, it's big expenses that are coming just for not having that information on hand. But credit to what was revealed was more than we've ever gotten before.
Well, and thank you for the feedback. Again, I'm trying to remember. I think that might have come from a comment in one of these conversations, or it might have been at a convention or online. But yeah, it was the request of, hey, it's great for the US to know it's a Walmart exclusive or Target exclusive, but can we find out in other regions? And I totally understand the frustration, right? Like, when something's going on pre-order, but you don't know where it is. So you're searching around, and by the time you find the site where it's at, it's already sold out or something like that. So totally understand the frustration. It was great feedback. I don't know if you've noticed, but it has evolved through the years. We started off, I think, with Canada and then the UK, and it tracks where Pulse is operating. And so that's what we're able to do. We're able to communicate that information only for markets where Pulse is operating. Certainly Australia is a big market. Pacific's a big market. There's potential for that in the future. At whatever time Pulse enters that market, that's when we could communicate that information.
Okay.
But it's great to know that was appreciated. I know because the list gets longer, so I know it was like, and Chris bravely fought through that. I know we were like, is this too long? Is this kind of, irritating for people to listen to? But it's great to hear the feedback.
It's not too long, I would imagine, for everyone in those markets who haven't had it addressed. Australians would happily wait to be fourth on that list at some stage.
Whenever that time comes, we will put Australia first. There we go.
Thanks.
Awesome. Cool. All right, James, back to you.
So I've got a two-part one this time. First thing is, with the advent of Pulse and with all of these pre-orders going up, the figures sold through very, very quickly, leaving a lot of fans frustrated that they weren't able to get them. So when the figures are actually released, will there be additional stock available for those that weren't able to get them on pre-order? Because obviously that's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
And the second thing, following on from what we've just talked about, is would it be possible to get a checklist in the same way that you've done with Star Wars of all the Indiana Jones figures, for example, with the Adventure series, what parts that they come with, if they're part of the Builder Relic sets, and where they're available? Because then if that's available on Pulse, then anyone can go and get that information and it's at hand, rather than one of us having to compile it and potentially getting it wrong.
Yeah, I'm going to take a note on the checklist. That's a great idea. I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, in terms of the quantities, it's interesting. Again, right? Indiana Jones is a new brand. It has been around since 2008. And honestly, in 2008, as you guys know, the fan business was evolving. That line was targeted at kids. We knew that there was fan interest, but it was targeted at kids. So this is the first time we're doing a line targeted at fans. Because again, just put your minds back in 2008 and what the fan business looked like on Star Wars and Marvel, et cetera. And so we just didn't know what the demand was. And so, transparently, that was one of the reasons we were excited to do those pre-orders so early. I know sometimes that's a pain point. We wanted to do those earlier so we could assess the demand and therefore make sure we have the right quantities for launch. And it's in all of our interests. We want to make sure that everyone who wants to buy every single figure of Indiana Jones and Toad and Marion and everyone can get them. So that was one of the reasons we did the pre-orders that early. So yeah, we absolutely took that information and used that to impact forecasts. And then definitely there will be rerun opportunities if needed throughout the year. So, again, we want to make sure we don't overship. That's never good, but we want to make sure that everyone who wants these figures gets them because it's in all of our interests.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Absolutely. Cool. Nick, what do you got for us?
So kudos for releasing a MultiFaced Tote. Was there some pushback behind the scenes on that, and how did that design and thought process come about?
Well, MultiFaced Tote everybody was on board. I mean, I think that's such an iconic scene. Everybody just wanted to do that and do it right. So pushback, no. It was the discussions around him were just about how to do him well and not have him too grotesque. I mean, that scene's kind of, it's 80s. It's an 80s movie, and it's not over the top gore. It's just kind of a fun look and was a really neat way to do that. So it was just about how to execute that well in our figure. I mean, obviously deco on that is critical to that. The sculpt was important. So it was just discussions about that, but no pushback. It was everybody cheering that we were doing it, basically.
Is there less restriction on including multiple heads with the Indy line than there is with the Star Wars line? I thought in the past Lucasfilm or Disney didn't want multiple heads, so that was something that wasn't permitted.
No.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, not at all. I mean, it was just about what made sense for each of these figures.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with Tote, it's such an integral part of the character on the scene that it just made sense.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool. All righty, back to Matt. Lead us off, I think, round 5. It's exciting.
Yeah, so this is a new question, but I guess it's one about how far are we away from a Wave 2 reveal? Are we looking at monthly reveals as we lead into Dial of Destiny, or is that wishful thinking?
So Wave 2, I'm trying to remember. I think we did pipeline those figures. It all runs together. So in terms of product reveals, monthly is probably a bit wishful thinking. And again, we could, right? It would just be less amount of product. And so I think, again, we're trying to take the feedback and make sure that these kind of events are more than a couple products. So I think we'll see a couple beats leading into Dial of Destiny. We're trying to space them out to try to kind of hit those key moments and keep the excitement mounting. But in terms of some Wave 2 reveals, we'll see them before the movie launches. I will say that. We'll see product for Wave 2 before the movie launches. There we go. That's what I can say.
Thanks.
Absolutely. All right, James.
So the Star Wars playsets in the Vintage Collection have done incredibly well, and you've been able to create some great environments. Will we potentially be able to have the same sort of thing for Indy, albeit in the Adventure Series line? I appreciate they can't be too big because of the scale, but there are some really iconic moments that could be recreated to allow us to have our figures stand in front of. And the second part is, we mentioned before about the selfie series, and I just wanted to see whether there's been any movement on the selfie series going anywhere else apart from the US.
Well,
just thought I'd throw that one in.
I'll take the first part, and Patrick can have the selfie series part. So for the play sets, I mean, at the time, like I said earlier, there aren't plans presently, but that, I mean, not taking it off the table. I think we're trying to answer that in a way with our Build-A artifact pieces that gives kind of an environment sort of interactive piece to that without it getting expensive, which in an adventure series scale, I mean, that's always been part of the problem, is that with that scale, it's just that much bigger and that much harder to deliver something that comes in within expectations for costs and everything for the fans. So yeah, the build it is kind of what is a way that we're trying to answer that in adventure series, but no other plans to announce yet. Patrick,
Yeah, thanks. In terms of selfie, I don't know if you saw, you're giving me all the good notes today, James. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. Again, we work with the team, but it's a separate team that takes lead on selfie. But I'll certainly look into it and revert back through our PR folks.
Yeah, thank you. There is a lot of interest outside of the States. That's why, and it's, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I can see why. People around the world, I'm sure, would love to see themselves in action figure form. So I'll definitely revert back on that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Cool. Nick?
All right. I had this question taken, so I'll just evolve it a little bit. It's about continued support of the line over the years. We just saw some exclusives announced for like Walmart and Target, but are there discussions or plans for convention exclusives? So anticipate seeing something at SDCC or another convention in the future.
Yeah, it's possible. And obviously you've seen kind of our convention exclusives on other brands like Star Wars have also evolved in the past 3 years due to, COVID, us not being at conventions until last year. So kind of our thinking in general around convention exclusives have evolved. But there's a potential for that. Obviously, just like with everything else, the Indiana Jones line is certainly, again, I love it. It's certainly smaller than some of our other lines. So I don't think we would expect to see the depth that we do on other lines if we do have a presence at conventions.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll see a big boulder in the booth next year.
There we go. Absolutely. This year. Cool. All right. I think that was 5 rounds, but if there's any last questions from Matt or James or Nick, we could do a quick speed round if you guys like. But if you're all set, then we're good too.
I think I'm all good, unless something comes to me after these guys.
Can we score one of these shirts off of Pulse soon?
There we go. I'll take another note. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Again, I know we say we love doing these for Star Wars, but I think this is the first one we're doing for Indy. So again, love Indy. It's great to talk, and we will be doing another one of these again at some point in the future. So thank you guys so much. Have a great evening. I think we've got Australia, the UK, and maybe the US represented here. So have a good morning, afternoon, and evening.
3 continents.
Morning,
Wow.
evening. 1
There you go. Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks. See you guys. Thanks.
Have a good day. Bye. Bye.